Doing great.
So how do you keep the room going, motivated, when there really haven't been enough good offensive plays to get everybody involved? And I don't know, is there frustration in the room, or what's kind of the vibe?
Yeah. Our emphasis in the receiver room is to stay in the present and to just stack days together. We need to concentrate and focus truly on what we need to do better, how we can help the team, and how we can help the team is just doing our job and being as consistent as we can for this team. So the emphasis truly has been to stay in the present for our group. I think they've had a really good attitude, and they've approached every day like that.
What have you seen out of Jerry these first 5 games as he's sort of acclimated to the offense? Because it seems like when he gets involved, there is a definite, you can see where the impact he makes on the passing game, and at least in improving it in incremental stages.
Yeah, Jerry's done a good job being able to be flexible within our offense, and that's created some of his opportunities that we've allowed him to move around the formation. And he's gone out there and made plays for us. And he's also made plays on some things that are what we call off schedule. In some of the scramble situations, he's done a great job of uncovering and being a good separator and playing fast in that area to create some plays for our offense. So that's been an area that has been unscripted for Jerry that I've been really impressed with, is his ability to play off schedule and make some of those plays. And I'm very impressed with his separation ability. But he's in that position because he's smart enough to handle moving him to where we need to use his skill set.
Along those lines, I wanted to ask about the scramble drills with him. Like, what makes a guy so good at that? Is it instincts? Is it, like, what goes into that?
I do think there's a combination of things that go into being good in a scramble situation, and being instinctive is definitely one of them. I think some guys are just better in those situations than others. And Jerry's certainly a guy that I've been very impressed with, just his ability. It's like he's in the backyard in Florida, and he's just playing with the guys, and he's uncovering, and he's the one that ends up open. So I think a lot of it is an instinctive trait, but I also think it's something we work really hard on. We've worked really hard on the fundamentals offensively of the scramble, from the quarterback position to everyone else involved, the other 10 guys. I think it's something you can work and improve on also.
The bar is so high for himself with everything he's done. Why do you think he quite hasn't had the same production over these first 5 games that I guess we're used to seeing?
Yeah, Scott, I mean, I understand why you're asking that question. I think it's a long season, and let's let this season play out and understand that, it's not always going to be perfect. Obviously, Amari has really embraced some of the adversity here earlier in the year that he's had, and he certainly had some. But I don't want to, jump the gun here and put this in one category that it's one thing or the other. I just think that I like the way he's responded to this, and I've really seen this in the way he's come in the building and worked hard and really tried to stay in the present, like I mentioned earlier, how important that is collectively for us as a group. And he certainly has done that individually, and I'm impressed with the way he's responded, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he plays moving forward.
Like, that perspective that Amari has, though, how critical is that for him, because he is working through these things, but also because he is a veteran in that room, that he can instill that on the younger guys as well?
Very important. Amari's one of our leaders on our team and on our offense, and a lot of times how he goes, the others go. So he is a great leader in that his actions speak louder than his words. We know that in him. But the way in which he's responded to some of the adversity that he's had early in the season says a lot about him, and I know it's contagious to our locker room. If they see Amari responding the way in which he has, which I'm very impressed with the way he's responded. He's been very positive. He's done everything we've asked him to do, and he's really concentrating on today. I know right now he's in that locker room, and he's worried about one thing, going out to the field and having a good practice today. I think if he has that mindset, I think that mindset is contagious to our football team.
Thrash hasn't appeared in a game yet, but kind of what have you seen from him over the first couple weeks of his rookie season?
Yeah, I really like Amari Thrash's development. There's some things that obviously you guys don't see in the meeting rooms and on the field and in the walkthrough settings. It's been very impressive. I have very high expectations for him, and that is because of his growth. He's continued to improve daily. He is one that takes coaching very well, and he has really done a good job of following the leadership of our team and saying, hey, how can I do this differently? Can you help me do this? Whether it's a technique in the receiver room, or it's just something in general of the transition of a rookie in this league. I really like that he's using all the resources for him to improve. I'm very excited about Amari Thrash.
It seems like early on, like when we're out there, while Sean's throwing to Jerry and Amari and some of those guys, on the other end, DTR's throwing to Jamari and some of the other wide receivers. Is that something you've always done? Is that just about kind of making sure that those guys are getting live reps, even though if maybe they're not getting the reps with the ones?
Yeah, Daniel, so what we do is because there's limited reps during the practice sessions, we try to maximize the reps we get. So we break into separate groups and let guys work independently, and what that does is it maximizes our reps. Instead of guys standing there in line waiting to go, we say, hey, let's go two-spot. Let's maximize our reps, and let's let some of the younger wide receivers work at one end, and then have some of the guys that have those game plan specific players work with Deshaun. So really it's more of a practice organization that we do that, and I think it's really helpful to our team.
You've been able to see him on the field a little bit. What have you learned about him in his still relatively short amount of time with the organization?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot about him as a player. We've seen that on film through the Giant film and the Kansas City film, and we followed him very closely at Florida. He's another player that very similar to Thrash, who's really, he's done a lot of asking questions and really leaning on the veterans and the coaching staff on just learning the offense. And right now he's still learning the offense. He hasn't been in the building, as long as some of the other guys, but he definitely has a unique skill set, very, very impressive skill set and unique in what he can do. So the biggest thing for him is just to put one foot in front of the other and learn the playbook, learn the building. And, it's a guy that just continues to improve based off of the way he's worked.
What do you attribute the Browns leading the league in dropped passes this season?
Yeah, our drops this year is something that we're working really hard on fundamentally. The way I always look at drops is, hey, we need to go and do it more. We need to catch the ball more. So we've definitely addressed that at practice. We've done things from a practice standpoint, from an individual drill standpoint, to really focus in on the fundamentals of catching the ball. I think that, there's always going to be a fundamental earlier in the season that needs to improve. I mean, there's been some years where we need to improve our blocking or our top of the route running or our releases. So there's so many different facets of fundamentals that occur within each position, specifically the receiver position. The glaring one for us that we need to improve is catching the football. So how do we improve that? We do it more. So we catch the ball more. Guys have, again, embraced that challenge. They know that we need to be more consistent in that area. But I think no different than any other fundamental, just go back and invest more time and work harder at it.
What do you see out of the Eagles corners? Look like they got one vet that's kind of proven, and then a young rookie that, high pick.
Yeah, so I think that it's a unique blend. They have a veteran player on one side and a rookie on the other. They're playing very well within that system. That's a new system for them, but they're playing very well within that. I think they're both zone and man. They've been very impressive in how they play their technique. So it's going to be a great challenge for us to go into Philly and play versus what I consider a very good secondary. And I think they've just played very well within that scheme.
On any given week, we see with our own two eyes and all over the internet, there are plays where it looks like Deshaun is missing the open man. Like last week, it was Jerry on the 1st and 7 in the end zone. So my question to you is, to what do you attribute that? I mean, the fact that is Deshaun just not seeing the field, or are there issues that are going on in some cases between Deshaun and the receivers, or how do you fix just the
Yeah.
whole passing game?
Mary Kay, I think there's so many things that go into each play. And, offensive football is truly everyone has to be on the same page. And if one person's not on the same page, the execution of that play is not going to be what we want. So I really believe, let's talk about the passing game, that it takes everyone to be on the same page in the passing game. It's just not the quarterback. There's so many things at the receiver position that we can do to help our quarterback. We can have the detail, the dependability on each play. The coaching points need to be exactly the right way. So that's really what we're focusing on, is like, what is our job and how can we go do that job at the very highest level? So when you look at some of the, call it, lack of success that we may have on an individual play, it's so many different factors, and you can't lump it into one person or one specific type of play. I just believe that we all need to have the mindset, hey, we need our individual accountability, we all need to do our job better, and we just need to focus on the main things.
And is some of that due to the choice routes in some cases that you guys are running this year?
Yeah, I think the play type in which it's not very specific to, it's not all this type of play that we may not be doing well on or that we're doing good on. It's just, it's just in general, just being on the same page, regardless if it's a run and us blocking in the run game, or, if it's a specific pass, maybe we're not at the right depth. And I just think there's so many things that go into that, but it's not a specific play type that we're saying, hey, we're just struggling on these type of plays and not these. I mean, certainly we're always going to try to do what's best for our offense and focus on those things moving forward. So if it's something we haven't had success with, we'll maybe move away from, but the choice routes, and specific to your question, have been part of our offense and will continue to be a part of our offense. We'll just work really hard at those and try to improve.
I noticed yesterday you guys were practicing, from what I could tell, at a much faster clip in the time that we were out there. I mean, it was just boom, 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 getting more reps in practice. Is that one of the things that you guys have focused on this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a focus, is really to be very efficient in our practice. I think Kevin's done a great job of being organized with our practice, and we're moving from drill to drill where guys are, able to be at their highest effort they can be based off of the practice structure. But I really feel like the last couple of weeks we've really gone out there and practiced hard, and the guys have really, accepted the challenge of, again, do more, play with great effort during practice, and I'm a firm believer in that what happens at practice happens in the game. There was a coach that I once worked for that used to talk about practice execution equals game reality, and I believe that. So that's been something we've really emphasized to our group, and that's something Kevin believes strongly in too, is, what happens at practice will ultimately show up in the game, so let's make sure we're at our very best. That's why I'm looking forward to getting on this field here in a little bit and seeing if we can put that into action and have a great Friday practice. Good. Thanks, guys.
Oh, that was cool. Good to see you. I like Clark. Good morning. Go Guardians. That was really fun to watch last night. How about the homer and the bunt? That's hard to do now. That was sweet. So we're rooting for you.
Just address some of the, the tackling issues that have gone on, and what are you guys doing to correct those?
Yeah, a lot of times, one of the things that we talk about with tackling is tracking, and that's tracking the hip, the side you came from, and we call that keeping our leverage. So we got to keep improving, and every team does. You got to keep improving and knowing where your leverage is and using that, because the NFL is a cutback league because everybody can run. So we got to keep working on our angles and our leverage. We do that. We do that every single day with our linebacker drills every day coming in, and we're getting better at it. And then the next thing is wrap, squeeze, drive for 5. So when you wrap somebody up, you really have to squeeze. And all the coaches do it in different ways, different sleds, whatever they can wrap. But you really got to squeeze, and you'll see something. That's the number one reason is you don't get all the way wrapped, and then somebody's running their feet, of course, right? And then now, one of the things you want to talk about is you run with your legs, you got to find a way to get their cleats out of the ground. So if you're going lower, you got to get that body part. There's times where we haven't. So those would be our biggest emphasis points, which is right in our core teaching. But then when we show up, we got to, like you said, we emphasize it more, and then we need to make it happen.
Different is what Philly does with, Jalen and Saquon in the run game, and what Washington did in terms of Jaden, utilizing him in the run game along with, Robinson and Eckler.
Well, I would say this, talking about this opponent, they're big and they're heavy and they're really strong. So they do a good job of both up front pushing you. So what we got to do is we got to set edges. We got to be when we're supposed to be in our gap, we have to be in our gap and get clear so that they can't grab us and hold on. So it's a power running game by whoever their ball carriers are, right? The quarterback, and they're all, it's what people say about the zone read, and we've all heard this, 11-on-11 football. That's where it's similar. Where we're preparing for this opponent is they're heavy and they're powerful. And we got to make sure that we're attacking where we're supposed to be attacking and able to get off of blocks with the correct, for example, I'll just share, if you're in a gap and this is your gap, you got to be able to get your outside or correct arm free in the gap. We got to be really good at that because these runners, they're really good at going patient and then jumping somewhere. So we got to stay in our gaps when that's our job. That's going to be the key this week to this team.
That wrap, squeeze, drive for 5. Just curious, where did that come from? Did you make that up? Or?
No. That's the Hawk tackling system by Rocky Seto, Pete Carroll a lot. We've studied that a lot. That's just something that as you look through and when we study tackling, that's some of the ways that a lot of coaches say it just to give you a nice progression, if that makes sense.
For 5, you just as a lane.
Oh, yeah, drive for 5 is driving your feet. Because it's like, for example, to the last question is, we've all seen the videos of the quarterback and the running back squatting everything, right? All kinds of weight. Like, we got to be able to drive our legs because they're good at it. So we got to be able to drive. So what drive for 5 means is driving, and it rhymes. You're not always going to get 5 steps after you make contact, but that's the goal. So we say drive for 5 to drive your feet so your feet stay alive. Because one of the things that you'll see that happens is feet stop. And if your feet stop and the runner's feet are going, right? So there you go. That's a good question. Thanks for having me clarify that.
The Eagles this week, with Saquon specifically, just how much of a challenge is he with the size and then that breakaway speed he has even going against the second level of the defense?
Yeah, he's trained himself to be a really, really good player. And so we got to do, the main thing is he's patient. We got to be in the right spots and working off of our D linemen and edge guys. So if a D lineman goes somewhere, we got to be able to make it right as linebackers and second level players or third level players like safeties. So, but his patience and his power are what make him good.
Jason, when you look at Jeremiah's game from last week, I'm just curious how you evaluate that because he made so many huge plays for you, but then there were a couple where it looked like he had a shot at Daniels. He gets away, and those turn into big plays for Washington.
Yeah, it's a little like Fry's stat line, home run and a bunt. That punch out is one of the best punch outs you'll ever see. And then, his play in the red zone, the interception, was really, really good. knowing where to slide to, and something we've been working on, and sliding right into the right spot, and then that was a hard ball to catch. So the biggest thing with those other plays is for Jeremiah just continuing to trust himself, trust his technique. And on a couple of those, it was a little what we're talking about with tackling, keeping his feet alive on those tackling contacts. So that's it. I mean, he's playing right now really fast, and he's seeing things quickly. And so as a coach, you say, hey, what'd you see? What'd you feel? All right, here's the little bit maybe I can give you. Just aim a little higher up the thing. Make sure your feet are alive, right? Because he's such a good athlete, you don't want to slow him down.
Jordan Hicks, he was off to a really good start. Now he's run into some injuries, obviously, but just how well was he playing for you, and how much are you looking forward to?
Jordan was playing really, really well. Jordan is a very consistent person and football player. So, he's working his butt off to get back for us. So hopefully we'll see him sometime soon.
Speed that Jeremiah was showing, is that, and that quickness, is that like more from last year? Has that been like a factor that he's really worked on in his game in the offseason heading into this season?
Well, I think the last couple of years, and he's gotten better at preparing his body to play in week out, and you're seeing it. He's also gotten better with how he communicates with his teammates, and he's one of the ones doing that. But he has that natural explosion and all the things that he does. So it's just modifying, continuing to amplify that to bring it up, and then to when he gets in those situations, just like we talked about, just let it go make the play. You see it, go. And so he's gotten better at all three of those things.
There's been some injuries in the linebacker room. Winston Reed has gotten some playing time. What is he showing you, and to kind of gain that trust and on the field? Winston has really trained and prepared himself mentally and physically to take advantage of being a free agent and making and contributing to an NFL team. I mean, when he hits you, you feel it. And you've seen that sometimes on special teams, and you've heard this from me, and what we say with Bubba is 3 words: linebackers play special teams. That's what we do. And now with this new kickoff, that's awesome, because I would love one of those shots, but they aren't going to give it to me. But I want one more kickoff. But no, Winston just proud of how he works, and he's trained his body to be ready for this. He takes great care of his body. He is strong, and he's flexible. And I'm excited for Winston as he continues to get more reps on special teams and on defense.
Make sure that with runners getting to the third level of the defense, you guys are trying to wrap up and do your job and teach what you're teaching the linebackers to do. Are you guys working together to make sure that carries over to the secondary?
Oh yeah, the more space you have, the more distance you have to cover, the more you got to be on the right angle. So the further you are back, like the safeties, and Rodney had a couple really good ones last week. Our safeties have had some really good open space tackles. Those are critical tackles. Those are touchdown saving tackles. And Ephraim and the safeties do a great job of training that distance. So some of the training tackling drills we do together. Every play of practice is a tackling rep, whether or not you're doing it with contact. And this is something that, I've talked to coaches about or have thought about. So everything we do, the backs continue to run. And it's nice to have 24 showing up at practice now. So, because he finishes everything. So what we talk about is always finishing everything. So linebackers, we're actually racing to the ball every single play of practice to see who can tag off first. And what that does is it trains those distant angles, because it's really hard to simulate that, if that makes sense to everybody. It's hard to simulate that unless you're within a play. So anytime we're not running full speed, the little coach is like, we're wasting, come on, let's go, we gotta get better. So that's one of the things that I get most excited about is every play is a tackling rep, no matter what you're doing. Full speed, not in pads, everything you're doing. So we really gotta, you got me going. We really gotta, that's one of the things that's what makes us go. And that's what we have to be on as coaches is like, guys, every rep is this critical, because we don't know when something's gonna happen, something's gonna fall down. We gotta fix it.
It felt like the guys last week put so much into bouncing back against Washington, and they're saying all the right things, and then they have the result against Washington. How have you seen them handle the third straight loss, and where do you feel like they're going to be mentally on this 3-game losing streak?
I think you know how I answer these, because I answer these the same. Like the great part about the NFL, there's another one, there's this next week. So you got to learn from it and you got to go. I mean, I literally am just so into what we're going to do at Sunday when it's kicked off that we just pull through that. So what I do is when I hear or see things that are going backwards, then our job as a coach is to not allow that. So those are the ones that I make sure I'm really, in fact, about, okay, good. This happened. We learned from it. Let's go. What are we doing now? Who's going to be the spark? Who's going to lead this? How are we going to work together? So really, it really is that. It's setting your mind to the next task. And obviously that's our jobs as coaching staff, but it's the players' job to set their own mind to get ready to go, and then how they interact.
With a guy like Winston, did you know he hit like that before you got him, or when did you? I mean, because it's shown up a bunch of times now, but did you know when you got him?
Well, but Coach Bubba and I both, and all our evaluators really liked Winston because you could see in college that's who he was. He was running and hitting, and then he was so strong. He was really strong. I can't remember how many bench press reps he did, but he did a lot. And so we liked him all the way through the evaluation process. But then when they get into your program, you're not necessarily sure they're going to be able to continue it. But Winston's mature enough, strong enough, and a good enough person to just, I mean, he does that. Every day he comes in, he's focused. He's the first one to get his notebook out. And then, of course, I tease everybody else. Winston's got his notebook out. What are you guys doing? But, I mean, we love his mindset. And, the whole rooms have been that way since you mentioned Jordan. We've had a lot of different guys playing next to Jeremiah so far, and we need everybody. So, and hopefully more of